Over the last 5 years, there has been such a surge in demand for Rolex watches. Because of this, the prices on them have hit unbelievable highs just a couple of years ago, with some of the models fetching 3 to 4 times retail, such as the Rolex Daytona with the ceramic bezel. Though, because of this, as well as collectors being met with empty shelves, maybe not receiving the type of customer service and experience that they would expect as well from a luxury brand, many collectors over the last 5 years have developed a hatred towards the Rolex brand as well as the watches. In this video, I'm going to be picking apart the reasons here, having worked with so many different collectors as a watch dealer, owning a watch business. I've worked with so many collectors, and I truly understand the reasons that I'm going to share with you here about why some collectors seem to hate Rolex watches. First, some Rolex collectors have gone astray because of what has been reported to be happening in the boutiques and authorized dealers of the Rolex watches. Now, you can take a look at this story here, but even there were some authorized dealers that were accused of racketeering, money laundering, wire fraud, all relating to this pay-to-play model that has seemingly developed in the Rolex authorized dealers. Many collectors feel that because they didn't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars with the authorized dealer, that they just wouldn't get a call for the watch that they wanted. And there are many other stories and kind of anecdotal evidence as well of people experiencing this. Now, I know that policies should remain constant because all boutiques are third-party owned, authorized dealers for the Rolex brand, and so they do have contractual obligations being an authorized dealer of the Rolex watches. But at the end of the day, it's business, and there are many stories of these authorized dealers favoring their customers that spend the most with them, and unfortunately, that has left a bad taste in many collectors' mouths. Now, next, there have been empty shelves in the Rolex authorized dealers throughout, the period of COVID, and even until now. Now they've actually heard the collectors, and they have kind of sample or demo watches on the shelf, so they're not empty shelves anymore for the most part, at least in the United States. Nonetheless, collectors would walk into Rolex authorized dealers excited they finally saved up. Hey, I'll just buy whatever Rolex is on the shelves today. I don't maybe need the Submariner or the Daytona. I'll take an Oyster Perpetual, the entry-level Rolex watch. But even that was not there. It wasn't available. They were selling out. They couldn't keep them in stock. So many collectors went to other brands, and they just felt that Rolex didn't care about them. The authorized dealers didn't care about them, and they really couldn't even experience the watches in some cases unless they went to the gray market and paid a premium to even know if they want to see how it feels on their wrist. They were met with empty shelves, and unfortunately, this led many collectors astray from the brand. Additionally, Rolex watches are not the best bang for buck. This is just factually true. If you look at the technical specifications of competitor brands such as Omega, for the money, you get a lot more that scratches the itch for an enthusiast, right? Many enthusiasts want display caseback, sapphire caseback, so that they can see the intricacies of the movement and enjoy that additional component. Rolex watches simply don't offer this for you. There are many other things. I'm not going to say why Rolex is worse or other brands are better, but this is a topic for another time. But factually, you don't get the most bang for buck in terms of horological value with the brand. You get an icon. You get to be part of the Rolex club. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a bad thing, because I do believe and I know that Rolex does the best at what they do, which is being Rolex and kind of setting the tone and standard for the industry for over 100 years. So you do buy into that. You are paying for that. Some collectors that are more nuanced do not like Rolex because it's not the best bang for buck in terms of horological value. It's more of a pop icon, and you're buying into that mentality, which many collectors just simply don't do. Now, next, almost piggybacking off of the bang for buck, takes us into the bandwagon effect. Collectors seem to get bored of the same model over and over. The same watch, little different dial. The same watch, maybe they've upgraded a clasp every 10 years. the same watch. Maybe they've done something with the movement, but what? It's debatable. That's what Rolex is known for. Tiny, iterative little changes in the product catalog over time. Rarely do they kind of surprise you with a big bang release, occasionally, but it's rare, right? And so many collectors like the new, the novel, the exciting. They like going onto YouTube and doing the research, seeing what's new and what's cool and what are the novelties, what are the exciting, new, groundbreaking kind of designs or styling cues or mechanisms behind these watches. And that's not something, unfortunately, that Rolex really does very often. They're great at what they do. They stay on their path. They keep going, and it works so well. Why would they veer off the path? But even myself, while I do have some Rolex watches and I do wear them on occasion, I sometimes find them just a little bit boring when I want something unique and interesting. And depending where you live, you might see the Rolex watches on everyone's wrist, and it gets a little bit just kind of uninteresting, in my opinion, and the opinion of many collectors. Still love the watches in many ways, but we have to admit there's a bandwagon effect, and this could induce boredom in some more nuanced collectors. And lastly, and I think this is a pretty good summary here, in summation, many collectors feel that Rolex as a company, as a brand, has really ignored them as collectors. They look at the watches on the wrists of celebrities. They look at the watches on the wrists of people willing to pay 2, 3 times retail. They look at these watches out there and they say, these aren't collectors. These are just people that like a nice thing. That's not always the case. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not drawing some kind of broad sweeping conclusion, but that certainly is the sentiment and feeling among many collectors, is that Rolex is just not focused on the collector community. Send a watch in for service. Are they going to swap out the dial on a vintage watch for a more modern service style? Are they going to replace the hands? Things like that, which do kind of lend to the idea that maybe Rolex cares more about being themselves, being more mainstream, than focusing on diehard enthusiasts, collectors, looking at the specs, doing the research, really wanting something that they connect with and relate to and can really geek out horologically over these things. Rolex just doesn't seem to do that. They don't engage with the collector communities like you see some brands do. Omega will do a great job at this. Breitling is doing a phenomenal job at engaging with collectors, listening to them, coming out, buying Universal Genève. I mean, talk about a collector brand they're buying and revitalizing, going in their back catalog, pulling out all these things. And instead, with Rolex, you get, a two-tone Explorer, which, by the way, no one bought, and now you can get in the gray market incredibly low, under retail price, depending on the size, and things like that. These watches, I like them. They're rugged, they're durable, and they're quality, and they do what they do best. But collectors just are generally underwhelmed and sometimes feel that something is lacking. And I do want to say, guys, I'm not in any way a Rolex hater, but I do see this rift in the community of collectors that seem to love Rolex and everything they stand for, and additional community of people inside that just think they don't do enough for them, for the collectors, for the community, and it's just not a product that they relate to and associate with. So kind of an interesting, polarizing topic I see developing, but I want to know, what do you think about this? I'd love to see it and hear it in the comments below. Guys, please do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I do appreciate it. I'm going to be trying to churn out some more videos here. I've been doing a little bit of traveling. I've been around the country, so excuse the lack of uploads, but certainly I have it in my schedule to be kind of doubling down and releasing some more content. So if there's anything you'd like to see, please leave that in the comments below as well. And we'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.